what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, you've been waiting for it. It's our annual holiday business lessons from the movies Podtacular edition, and we'll be joined by the founders of the Footcandle Film Society, Alan Jackson and Chris Frye. We'll give you some movie ideas to make it through the holidays with a minimum of awkward conversation with your in-laws. Plus, our Small Business of the Month feature where we'll highlight some small businesses to check out. Plus, we're going to put Alan and Chris through our regular fast questions, fast answers. We'll do our best to embarrass them. My name is Jeff Neuville. I'm your co-host. I'm director of the Manufacturing Solutions Center in Conover, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Executive Dean of Economic Development and Corporate Education at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. Gary, how's it going today?
It's going great. It's cold and sunny here, so it's getting us in the Christmas spirit, and I'm ready for it.
Well, here in western North Carolina, we never know what sort of weather to expect. Today, the high is like 40 degrees, and we're shivering. Tomorrow, it might be 75. Who knows? We get a wide variety of weather here, but we're here in early December, so we're always happy to enjoy the holidays, and we like to enjoy them with our friends from the Footcandle Film Society, Chris Frye and Alan Jackson. Fellows, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well.
Sorry, I wasn't sure who was going first. So, Chris, you go ahead. You do your niceties first.
I always enjoy coming and doing this episode because I always love talking about movies. So I look forward to it. And I'm taking a little inspiration from one of Alan's picks last year where he picked kind of Barbie, and I felt like it was kind of out of the blue, but then he kind of brought in it really made sense. So one of the picks I'll be doing, I feel like maybe a stretch, but I don't think so.
Well, I'm sure you can contort
With
yourself
this
to
group,
help us
nothing's
come
a
up with
stretch.
some sort of business-related things. And I will say, I did watch the Barbie movie, and I named my fantasy football team Jeff's Mojo Dojo Casa House.
Perfect.
Until we went on a 5-game losing streak, and I had to change it. I had to change it.
But it has nothing to do with the name. The name is incredible.
I think
you did great.
it improved a little bit. I think it had more to do with Tyreek Hill than the name, but anyway.
I've been in the process with my kids, helping them set up Wi-Fi networks at their apartments and places where they live. And before they know it, I call all of them Alex's Mojo Dojo Casa House. Yeah.
Right.
So that's always the go-to now. So
Good to know.
I didn't
great.
see the movie. Are you guys cussing at me?
Yes. Yeah, we are.
We're going to do that later. Once we hear your movies, Gary.
Well, that's for sure.
Well, Alan and Chris are co-founders of the Footcandle Film Society, which is a nonprofit group which brings critically acclaimed movies to our area on a monthly basis, and we very much enjoy and appreciate that as a member of the Footcandle Film Society. And they also have their own podcast, Footcandle Film, which you can find on here on the Mesh Podcast Network, as well as Apple, Spotify, and the usual podcast locations. So we're always enjoy seeing you guys, good friends and partners, and we think we all enjoy getting together for this annual event.
Agreed.
That's where I get some culture because you guys know movies.
That's what we're here to spread some culture.
So
to
for
the
our
masses.
listeners, our premise that we have each year is that we love spending time with our family, friends over the holidays. But there could be a time during the holidays when you're just a little tired of talking and you need to put something on the TV, whether it be Netflix or Amazon or Apple or whatnot or HBO Max. And we want to give you some ideas of movies that you can be watching that we're going to try to connect to some sort of lesson for business people as well. So that's sort of what we're here to do. So we'll give you some movie recommendations and sort of tell you what we think the business lesson might be associated with it, and you can watch them at your own risk. So, Chris, do you want to get us going here?
Yes, and I'll start off with the one that I was kind of referencing. I'm going to recommend Conclave, and this is a movie that came out this year. It's directed by Edward Berger. It stars Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, Isabella Rossellini. And what it's about the Catholic Church, specifically in Rome, and a pope passes away. And then it is about who is going to succeed him. So, with businesses, succession planning, very important. Catholic Church, it is a church organization, but it is also, in many ways, kind of a business. They have leaders. They all have roles they have to perform.
I think you're right on. I think that's
when something happens, they kind of have to go, okay, who's going to take over? And of course, there are divisions within the cardinals about who they think should be it. And they each have their own little kind of silo where they have they have to somehow come together and they have to vote and kind of get a consensus and choose a new leader. So it is based on a book that was kind of set up as a thriller. So it does have some intrigue and stuff. But I think it's, considering succession planning is important.
Have either of you guys seen this movie?
Not yet.
but I've thought about it.
Okay.
I've seen the previews for this movie. I don't think it's available on my television quite yet.
Not yet.
Yet.
Probably soon, but it's still playing in theaters right now. It's actually doing pretty well box office wise.
good.
It is very good. I've actually seen it twice now, and really, I agree with Chris. It's good. Chris, it also adds on one other element, which I think is interesting too. It's the notion of the values of leadership, because there are 3 or 4 cardinals kind of vying for this role of being appointed the new pope, and you come to learn, or the person we're following, the cardinal who's kind of in charge of this process, the one played by Ralph Fiennes, has to do a lot of searching and researching and kind of exploring and understanding these other cardinals to make sure that he knows what it is that their values are, what they're bringing to the church if they were being anointed pope. So it is a little bit of making some good leadership decisions on the right people based on the right values. So,
and without spoiling anything, because neither one of you have seen the movie, I don't know if our listeners have or not, but there is someone that is in the running, and then certain things come to light, and although they would be a fabulous leader, they're like, no, because these things would come to light after you became leader, and it would not be good for the Catholic Church, so sorry. And then they kind of have to have this mutual, like, yeah, you're right, and he has to step aside. So it's all, there's a lot of lessons that can be learned.
And absolutely no relations to anything going on in our country politically or anything else. There's nothing like that about trying to vet people to be in certain positions and people banding around different candidates. No, there's nothing like that. So
it sounds like a lot of palace intrigue, which in business you run into that as well.
Sure.
Well, it was really interesting to think. Obviously church organizations are organizations, church-based groups and religious faith do have a business component behind them. And I always think it's fascinating when you see some of that business machinations going on within such a powerful structure. And so I thought the movie was really interesting for that. Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite actors, Stanley Tucci's in it as well.
Yes, he's great.
He's very good.
So all right.
Does it have a happy ending? You know me, I always like happy endings.
It has an interesting ending. I'll say that.
It is.
It can be.
I'm not sure what a happy
I think it's
ending
seen as
would be.
positive. I think you can see it as positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
It's definitely not a dark.
No, it's not a depressing, dark ending or anything like that. So
Remember, I grew up Catholic.
I'm not saying anything, Gary.
And
You don't have to say anything.
no.
I'm not sure if kids would want to, because I don't know if they'd be, but it is PG.
Yeah, it is PG, so it's very.
It's not.
So like
Sorry, it's no Wolf of Wall Street, Gary, but you could.
That's how I was going to start.
But you might still enjoy it. I don't know.
So the Cardinals aren't throwing a lot of F-bombs around behind
Not
closed
really.
doors?
No.
Good for them.
Pretty
That's
clean.
good
Pretty
to
clean.
know.
Well, that's the positive.
I agree. Yeah, I like to think that that's the way they actually talk, so that's good. All right. Thank you, Chris. Alan, what do you have to recommend?
Yeah, so both of mine are going to be a little personal to me. They are business lessons. I do feel like there's some good lessons to pull from them, but they are movies I like for very personal reasons. So the one I'm going to recommend right now is a film called Saturday Night. It did come out this year. It is about Saturday Night Live, the television show. I am a huge Saturday Night Live fan, have been since probably early mid-'80s. Grew up on it. College, every Saturday night in college, me and friends in the dorm were all crowded around the TV watching. It was our thing. And so I haven't missed an episode in, gosh, I don't know, 30 some years, 40 years almost. So I was excited when I heard there was going to be a movie about the first night that this show premiered. It was just called Saturday Night. at that time. So henceforth the movie Saturday Night. So this movie is a quote real time. It's not really. There is some fabrication having to go on to make this work as a movie. Nothing happened exactly the way the movie's showing the night of this first broadcast. But it being a live show, it being a very unique show that nobody had ever really thought about or heard of up until that point. So you're following the 90-some minutes before they go live at 11:30 that night. And of course, there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of, personalities involved. You've got all these famous, soon to be famous actors, although they weren't famous at the time. Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Gilda Radner, Chevy Chase. But nobody knew who these people were. And then you had Lorne Michaels, who is kind of the producer of the show, the executive director. He's the one with the vision and making it all happen. Where I think it's really interesting from a business perspective is I love this kind of movie where somebody is trying to creatively produce something, making something happen, something that's a little new and fresh, and is battling against all the forces of people that don't get it or don't understand it or want to get in the way or want to make it more of what they're expecting it to be as opposed to anybody else.
Or they want to see you fail.
Well, there's that too. There's a whole subplot of this
that
where
happens in business.
Yeah, where there is a faction of people that kind of want to see this show fail. They're basically setting it up for failure. So you're getting a lot of that backroom intrigue going on. You've got a lot of hallway conversations where people are finding out, wait a minute, this group doesn't want this to succeed for this reason, and we've got to make this work. Then you're following Lorne Michaels, who relatively young, somewhat inexperienced guy trying to pull this together, having to manage diverse personalities with these up and coming actors and performers. The mechanics of just putting on a live show at a very unique setting. It's just all this coming together. There's a lot to pull from it. I mean, as we know, they were successful. The show's been around for coming up on 50 years.
It's 50 year.
It's 50 year actually this year. Yeah, this is the 50th year. And so obviously it's been successful. So spoiler alert, the show does actually go on that night. But I still think it was really fascinating to just watch the management decisions having to be made. And let me even boil it down to this. So at the beginning of the movie, they're leading up to the show. Every sketch or every bit that they're going to put on the show, they have as a note card on a big board. So they're putting these note cards up and they're trying to figure out which sketches are going to go on and what sequence and what order. And at the beginning of the movie, that board is chock full with probably like 30 or 40 of these note cards. And everybody passing by is like, there's no way we're going to be able to do all this in the first show. So Lorne Michaels, over the course of the movie, is having to determine what to cut, what to let fall by the wayside. Billy Crystal got cut. He had a sketch. He had a bit all set up to go and got cut minutes before they went live. And that is a true story. And just to think, somebody who became as famous as Billy Crystal didn't make the cut, but you as a manager, Lorne Michaels, having to make those judgment calls, it's tough, but having to make those decisions and having to make them under the pressure of time as well. It was, I thought it was an exhilarating movie. It's not a perfect movie. There's a lot of flaws with it, and there's a lot of stretching of reality of what really happened. But for somebody like me who loves that type of, that loves the show and loves this whole what's going on behind the scenes, I think it was fascinating. So yeah.
Did Billy Crystal get his sketch, the next one? I mean, we obviously know what happened. He
eventually made it on the Saturday Night Live, but
came out
okay.
Yeah, I know he made it.
Yeah,
that
was a really interesting part because they were ready to go. He and his partner had it all. They're set. They're ready to go. And Lorne Michaels approaches him at one point and says, "Billy, can you do your sketch in 5 minutes, and instead of the 7 or so that you wanted?" And Billy's like, "I can get it down to 3, but no more than 3." And then later on, Lorne's like, "You've got 2 minutes." And Billy Crystal's like, "I can't do it." And it's like, "Well, sorry, you're out." So it's just, again, it's those whole management decisions under pressure, having to make and dealing with so many disparate things going on at one time. It was fun to watch. I think there's some lessons to pull from it of just how to deal with people, how to deal with pressure, how to stand by what you believe is right, even if others are questioning it or trying to throw roadblocks in your way. I liked it quite a bit. So
And I think this one is still in the theaters.
it is. It may be kind of winding down its theater run, but I think it's still playing in some places. I highly recommend it. That's another one I saw twice. So
And Chris, out of curiosity, what was your take on the movie? I assume you've seen it.
Oh yes. I went in with very high expectations, and I was a little let down. It was more, if you like The West Wing, you guys are familiar with that long-running TV show. I never actually watched an episode of it, but I know Aaron Sorkin, and I know the whole dynamic behind it, like, because he's gone on to write movies. This, to me, felt like what if The West Wing was taking place at 30 Rock, which is where they do Saturday Night Live, because it's a lot of walking and talking in hallways and everything. And I wanted a little bit more like, I don't know, substance as opposed to just being stressed for but I know, like Alan said, the outcome, I know everything ends up being okay.
Are you a Saturday Night Live fan?
I am.
Okay.
I am. And interestingly, I think you really have to be a huge fan to enjoy it, because there's a lot of like in jokes, and they sometimes don't state who people are, and I knew who they were because they look enough like Lorraine Newman, and my wife's like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "Oh," and, so you have to be a little bit more familiar with it. But if you're a Saturday Night Live fan, I would say watch it. And business lessons, absolutely, because dealing with all those moving parts, and usually most businesses at some point have an amount of stress, and having to deal with that stress and still have an output or a product that you're trying to promote. Yeah, just management of that and still getting it done by a deadline. So yeah, it wasn't as high on it as Alan, but it's still worth checking out.
Well, it's on my list to see as well, and I'm a pretty big SNL fan.
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. I'm the same. I'm a big SNL fan too.
Good.
So
should be online here pretty soon. Pretty soon you should be able to see it. Yeah.
All right, Gary, what recommendation?
After those great ones, mine, I don't have a Wolf of Wall Street or Pretty Woman, as you mentioned in your presentation.
Yeah, you have run the gamut of movies you've recommended.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's great. It's good to see how you twist yourself to make the business lesson.
Okay, so The Fall Guy.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Almost thought of that.
Yeah.
Because of all the things we talk about. But I mean, I'm going through. I really enjoyed the movie.
I thought it was great.
My wife did too, and it was a great movie. But there are a lot of lessons. I mean, you're learning, or you're getting glimpses of the industry, and and the actors or the employees that are in it that can get sort of pushed to the side. You might have been great one moment, you're not, because you can't do what you used to be able to do.
Mm-hmm. And this is the stuntman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, and they were great together.
Yeah.
And
a quote reboot of an old TV show.
Yeah,
which I was a big fan of the TV show when it was a kid.
Yeah,
Lee Majors,
and he's at the end.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Well, spoiler, but that's good. Yeah, he's there. I think it's fine now. The movie's been out for a while. We can spoil people. Yes, Lee Majors. We don't know what's in it. You don't know how.
I was going through, and
you don't know how.
My wife had to tell me.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the TV show, so I did not make that connection.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It came on right after the A-Team, so that's how I remember.
Yeah, it did.
It
was in that block of TV shows. Yeah.
I mean, I like Mr. T, or else. You gotta like Mr. T.
Well, I think you're right, Gary. It is really interesting movie about the movie making business, especially more specifically stuntman, being a stuntman in that business, but understanding the dynamics of, having to secure the jobs that you get, and how the production deal depends on you. Yeah, exactly. So I thought there was some good notes from that. I considered that movie as well this year. Yeah.
God bless.
There you go. Good job.
This one I really enjoyed. That was a fun popcorn movie.
That's exactly. I was looking back at some of the comments made, and that's exactly how people described it. It was a fun movie. You walk out and you feel good.
Yeah.
But I did learn what they were telling me about the movie business, and I think about like the stuntman. That's a tough job.
It is, and it's very underappreciated.
There's the perfect word.
Not this year at the Academy Awards, but I think maybe the following year they're actually going to start having an Academy Award for best stunts, because they feel like, hey, these people work really hard. They need to be appreciated.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
No, very good.
That's good.
All right. I'm going off brand for me.
Oh no!
And this, I have some guilt in doing this, particularly for the movie critics in my presence. But somehow I got sucked into watching a movie on Amazon Prime called Saving Paradise, and it's I'm recommending it because it's an incredibly wholesome Christmas movie that people of all ages can watch. It made me think of I was very close to one of my grandmothers, and it's the sort of movie that I could watch with her, and she would just love it. Very happy and nice. And, and actually one time some neighbors, when I was with my grandmother, invited us to watch this new cool movie, Pretty Woman, not a movie I enjoyed watching with my grandmother.
But I haven't ever watched it with my grandmother.
So Saving Paradise is about this pencil manufacturing company in small town Tennessee, and apparently there's some based on a true story that is going to go out of business because of financial issues. The father is running the company, has some health issues. The son, who is a big city New York financier, very evil, has to come and try to do something with the company. Maybe he's going to sell it and move the production overseas. Maybe there's a young woman who you used to know in high school who's now the CFO, who's very attractive, and they might want to rekindle their romance. And,
you're saying maybe, or this is.
I don't want to give it away.
I'm planning on watching it tonight, so don't tell me.
Don't want to give it away. I think this could have been a Hallmark movie. It might.
I was going to say, it sounds like some of mine.
So very, very wholesome. You can watch it with the entire family. I think they might have said shit once. Sorry, but
and we had to match it on the podcast here, so we got the one drop in.
There you go. So but I will say, if you are of a more cynical mindset, you could make it some sort of drinking game for the cliches that are riddled throughout the movie. The evil New York financier saying that once you make partner, you get a Butler 950 toilet. I'm not sure what that is, but it sounds like something that I might ask for this Christmas. They talk about Butler the strategy of buying assets and tearing apart companies as the old pump and dump. They're talking about moving production to China, raiding pension funds. One of the companies they're targeting, the owner has cancer, so the evil guy says, the timing is even better. They're ready to sell. So, we have a small family-held company with a rainbow of diversity, including a Rain Man type person who's on the spectrum. So we try to do an employee owned stock ownership plan in 24 hours without lawyers. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it.
Wow.
That's about everything you can think of for the business.
So, the business lesson from this movie is that we find at the end that businesses are more than just numbers. They're about our people and keeping our people working and working together to solve these problems. There are some similar movies out there if you want a little bit more comedy and a little bit more off-color. If you ever see Tommy Boy with Chris Farley, or maybe Gung Ho with Michael Keaton, of how we're saving these old plants and putting people back to work, you might get a laugh. But if you want to sit down with your family and just have something that everyone can watch, Saving Paradise. Okay. On Amazon Prime.
All right.
Very cool.
Has anybody ever recommended Gung Ho on this podcast?
I was thinking the same thing when you said that, because that
Why
is a good...
have we not?
Next year, right? Yeah.
Okay,
That's right.
I'm claiming it. Nobody else can do it next year. Okay, I got it. All right. That sounds really good, Jeff.
Yeah. Very good.
Watch it with your parents, Al.
Oh, I will.
Okay.
That's good. I can do that.
Okay. All right. So, anyway, Chris, you have another one you want to share?
Yes. So my typical run on this episode is I usually do one narrative and I do one documentary. This year's going to be no different. This one, if your significant other likes to watch home improvement shows on HGTV, you might be able to sit down and watch this with them, and they might like it. It is a documentary. It's called Casa Bonita, Mi Amor, and it is about the two creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone. They decided to save a Mexican restaurant in Colorado that they grew up going to as children. This Mexican restaurant featured people running around doing skits in the actual restaurant. They pictured divers that dive off a cliff into like a little pool of water. Alan has actually been to this place because South Park featured it on one of their episodes. Cartman was like dying to go there. Regardless of what happened, he was going to go to Casa Bonita.
That's in our South Park in Charlotte?
No, the television show. Yeah,
now I'm back.
The raunchy cartoon show. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been a fan of the South Park TV show for a long time, and those guys are just very creative. They made a Broadway play, Book of Mormon. They're just all over the place. But something as simple and actually kind of wholesome was they grew up going to this as kids. Mm-hmm. And they're like, the place after 2020, like a lot of other places, was closing its doors. It was really old and had gotten kind of run down. And then 2020 happened. People weren't going to restaurants. They're like, okay, that's it, bankruptcy. And the founders of South Park were like, nope, we're going to save that thing. Not only that, but it kind of gotten a reputation over the years that the food was terrible. It was kind of like Disney World. You go in there, there's all this craziness going around. Kids love it, so the parents are like, okay, we'll go there for your birthday. But they're like, nope, we're going to open that place back up, and we're going to make the food good, and like we're going to restore everything. And they did. But as with any home improvement show, you go in and you find out there's mold in the ceiling, all this stuff. It would have scared me. Like Alan got to see this, the people diving off the cliff in the water. They basically were like inches away from live power lines that could have like all this stuff that's like frightening. And you're like, what? Like this place was built back in like the 70s, and people are like, codes, what are those? But it's amazing. And just the way they treated the staff, because they had to close it down, and they like hired them, made sure they had other jobs. They brought back as many of the original staff to like staff the restaurant and everything. Just awesome. Now, be aware, because it is the creators of South Park, some expletives do fly around here and there, but I just really enjoyed it. And spoiler, they were able to open it back up. Now, granted, this is not the nightmare. You talk about the Tom Hanks movie, The Money Pit. This place was a huge money pit. I mean, they went in there thinking, okay, we're going to spend X amount, and then it was way, 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 way more. So that's kind of a lesson, like, be sure what you're getting into before you commit to something. But it's heartwarming. In the end, they get to open it back up, and the community's just like, couldn't be happier. So, and now it is on my bucket list to go to this restaurant at some point, because it just sounds like it's one of those oddities that just would be fun to go to. So,
where in Colorado is this?
It's near Denver. I think it's outside of Denver, or maybe in Denver.
Okay. I think so. Yeah. But it's you can probably rent Casa Bonita Mi Amor on various streaming services but it is streaming. If you happen to have Paramount Plus, it's streaming on there for free. But I really enjoyed it, and there's lots of business lessons to be taken away from what they're doing, and they still have to worry about. Yeah, we've still got to make our little cartoon show, because that's what's making us the money to be able to do this. So despite all the headaches, we're like, we got to go back to New York and work on this.
I suspect they have the deep pockets to deal with some of the issues that they run into that many restaurateurs might not have that sort of money at their disposal.
That's true.
But it's still just amazing.
The restaurant, I mean, at least pre-2020, I was there in 2019, and it was it was an interesting experience. So I haven't seen this documentary yet. I've been really wanting to. So, but
I guess I'm intrigued by how you do cliff diving in a restaurant, and how big the cliffs are.
I mean, there's a part of the restaurant that's like multi-stories in one part, and so it's maybe 2.5 stories. It's not someone diving a yard into a kiddie pool or something. No. It's a pretty good little dive. And
how deep is the pool?
Probably not deep enough.
That's what I wonder.
Probably just deep enough.
Just deep enough.
So, it was crazy. And there's like a cave inside the restaurant. There's arcade. There's old timey photo. There's a puppet show. All this stuff. Yeah, I had heard about the restaurant, saw it on the South Park cartoon. So when we went out west, my family, for a cross country trip, I'm like, we're stopping there. And of course, they had no idea where we were going.
All right.
And it was an experience. But anyway, sounds like a great documentary. I'm still excited to see it.
All right. Very good.
Yeah. Okay. This one's a stretch, but it is rooted in business. And I do think there's some interesting business history you could glean from it, but you just got to understand this is a comedy movie that is over-exaggerating definitely over-exaggerating much of this corporate business history. But Jerry Seinfeld recently made a movie this year called Unfrosted, which is the story of the Pop-Tart. How the Pop-Tart was designed, how the Pop-Tart was made, how it was marketed, the trials and tribulations of trying to bring the Pop-Tart to market. Now, that in itself could be kind of an interesting film. Okay, this is an absurdist comedy, though. This is over the top dumb. Okay, it is meant to be dumb. It is a dumb comedy. It is ridiculous in its nature. I had a good time with it. I thought it was funny, but rooted at its core is a true desire and interest in the product of the Pop-Tart. Jerry Seinfeld is a self-proclaimed Pop-Tart fan. He loves that breakfast foods. He loves cereals. He loves the Pop-Tart. So he wanted to make a film about the birth of the Pop-Tart. So basically, you have Kellogg's and Post as the two big breakfast conglomerates at the time. This was back in 1963. The movie takes place, and it does tell the story of that these two warring companies were truly fighting each other for who could make the best breakfast food. And if one was coming out with a product, the other one's like, we got to come up with something to match it. So this is what was happening. Kellogg's and Post competing to create this breakfast cake, of some sort. And watching the intrigue between them, each of these companies are controlled by certain leadership teams. And, I think it was Post is the one that kind of has a big family ownership structure. I think that was the one. And then Kellogg's is the one that's trying to come up with it to combat it, or it's the other way around. Kellogg's is the big oppressive, huge company with the big family legacy history. And then Post is the one trying to come up. Anyway, I don't remember, but it is interesting because there is some historical facts in this film, but just understand you got to dig a little deep for them. It is meant to be fun and comedic, but, it does star Jerry Seinfeld in it.
I was going to ask if he was like as an actor, or is he like...
He is in it. He stars as, I forget his name, the name of his character, but he's basically like a marketing guy for Post, I believe. And he's trying to come up, The interesting thing is that the corporate headquarters for both of these businesses, Kellogg and Post, are in the same town in Michigan. So how weird is that? Like in the movie, they can actually look out their window and see the corporate building of the other one, and they're kind of spying on each other. I don't know if it was quite exactly like that, but the fact that they're both in the same town in Michigan, it's actually kind of interesting to begin with. And I thought it was a fun movie. It is, if you like, the movies like Airplane and Naked Gun and all that, that is the kind of humor you're dealing with. So it is not taking any element of this seriously. But some interesting notes about the breakfast wars back in 1963.
See how that kicked off.
There's some interesting notes in there.
Business message that with two companies fighting for
right. Well, and you've got two companies. Of course, in the movie, it's portrayed that Kellogg is like the giant Goliath, and Post is a little more scrappier, a little smaller company. I mean, they're both big companies at this point, but that's the way the film is trying to portray them. But you do get a little of this idea of having to kind of one up your competitor, or you learn what your competitor is looking to do. They're going to steal ideas from you from them. Who can get there first to the market? Who can make the most compelling product? You see different iterations of what the different versions of the Pop-Tart looked like before it actually came to the final one we know. I don't know. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a cute movie. I had a good time with it. And I love my breakfast foods too. So I'm a fan. Again, I'm tying in movies and things that I like. I like Saturday Night Live. I like cereal in the morning. So this was, yes, I was very interested in both these movies.
Now, is this a family-friendly movie?
For the most part, it's PG-13. It's got a few things, not them too bad. Okay. It's Jerry Seinfeld humor. I mean, he's never gets quite too bad. So, all
right.
Yeah, I would say yes, it's okay for the family. Okay. There are some moments, there are a few moments. I would say I thought it was funny, but there's one scene in particular I think is still one of my favorite scenes. I'm just gonna say it's a funeral scene involving a lot of mascots from different cereals and breakfast foods. So very, very funny. So,
all right. Yeah. Very good.
As Unfrosted, cool. It is a Netflix movie. So if you have Netflix, it is on Netflix right now.
All right. Very good. Gary, what you got?
Well, I've got two, and I'm debating, and you talk about one's silly, the other one's good movie. So I'll go with silly.
Okay.
Silly?
Keep the silly train going.
Yes. Talladega Nights.
Okay.
Well, because you see, again, the business and NASCAR. Again, it's kind of like the Fall Guy and different things of taking, you should see the good and the bad of business in a funny way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually impressed with how much Talladega Nights is deeply rooted in the NASCAR business. And there's actually some interesting,
Yes.
you see some of the real workings behind the scenes sometimes outside of the main plot with Ricky Bobby. But I thought it was interesting.
I mean, that's so.
Guy loses his ride, loses his wife.
That's exactly. I mean, you sit there. I mean, it's real life stuff kind of in the middle, and it's silly because who's in it?
And you had the whole race team that had to kind of is trying to champion their one driver, and if that driver isn't performing a certain way or has some problems, they've got to shift gears and figure out how they put all their weight behind a different driver and some of the competition involved in that. It was interesting. I think it's a really funny movie too. So yeah.
And the other one I'll say is Ocean's 11.
Okay.
We should get the
Very good movie.
business, yes,
Yeah.
and great actors and actresses.
Business planning. You're going to steal something.
Well, right, and you've got Andy Garcia, who's got the casino business and how he's running it, and you hear that's the good and bad of that. And then, of course, you've got the other guys like that are in the business of stealing. And a lot of planning.
Now, Gary, you're not condoning this as a form of business.
No, not at all.
It's just more the
Because
mechanics
I would
of
lose
how to
every
get it done.
dime I
Right.
had if I
Okay.
tried to do it.
All right.
Well, and I'd also be in jail.
I'm just putting that out there for
Yes,
the listeners.
just
I don't
make
want
sure,
anybody
yes.
to
Somebody's
walk
gotta
away
go to jail.
thinking, yeah.
Well, and then you put Talladega Nights and Ocean 11 right next to each other, and you're going, who is this guy? And you already know that.
We do.
Not much to me.
That's some good picks. That's some good picks.
All right. So my last movie,
Yes.
not silly,
Okay.
old classic, Glengarry Glen Ross.
Not a family film.
And a lot of language is a little rough
Yeah.
in Glengarry Glen Ross, which was originally a play written in 1984. Actually, won the Pulitzer Prize for drama as a theatrical play. Basically about these fellows that are trying to sell real estate. It sounds like swampland in Florida, where an incredible cast of characters, actually, from Alec Baldwin, Jack Lemmon, Al Pacino, pre-canceled Kevin Spacey, Alan Arkin are all in this movie. Basically Alec Baldwin is like the guy that comes in and threatens all these guys with their jobs if they don't have sell more of this real estate, and dangles all these really good leads in front of them, but says you can't have these leads unless you actually sell some stuff, and which leads to some potential crime and so anyway, it's very intriguing. Has some of the great lines that we probably have overquoted, from the sales contest winner getting Eldorado Cadillac, second place gets steak knives, third place gets fired.
ABC, always be closing.
Always be closing.
Yes.
It takes brass balls to sell real estate. Coffee is for closers.
Coffee is for closers.
Of course, Alec Baldwin did this on Saturday Night Live
Yeah.
as like one of Santa's elves.
Yeah, always be cobbling.
But he actually said always be closing initially, and then I mean, cobbling, right. But it's one of the classic Saturday Night Live skits. It'll
is.
probably show up in their Christmas special at some point in time. So just as a sort of we talk about sales, the importance of sales, and unfortunately, these guys are probably showing it done in a rather unethical, ruthless type way in which they're trying to reel in unsuspecting people to buy property that's probably close to worthless. But, just in terms of the early cold calling sales approach, just sort of a lot of lessons there about sales.
Absolutely.
And also how people are just sort of associated with their jobs sometimes. Of course, this was taking place 40 years ago, but just a different time, and as my daughter would say, probably a poor demonstration of toxic masculinity in terms
There's
of,
that too.
of
Yeah.
it. So, but anyway, it's sort of a classic. It does have a lot of rough language, so probably not something for the younger folks out there, but it's a classic and a hell of an ensemble cast, so it's worth giving a watch to.
The thing is, there are ways you can watch Glengarry Glen Ross, and if you are in sales or are you looking to get inspired to sell. You could get some inspiration from it. You got to look past the fact that what it is they're selling in the movie is not the kind of thing that you want to take pride in selling necessarily. But I mean, yeah, there are some messages about your aggressiveness with sales and, very, 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 being very focused on the end result of a sale. So that whole speech with Alec Baldwin's character, I mean, and he's not even in the movie that much, which is crazy. He's really in it for a few minutes at the beginning, but it is
memorable.
It is something, and it is probably one of the best things he's ever done on screen. And I love it. It's really good. And Jack Lemmon's always so good. So he's great.
I think he won some awards for his.
He's so good.
He was really good in that. So anyway,
absolutely.
All right. So you got some movie recommendations.
Yeah.
As we said, watch at your own risk. Some are silly. Some are wholesome. Some are a little rough around the edges. So
we did a good job.
You have
I think we did a good job.
You have a potpourri of choices.
Yeah.
So.
And we tried to give a little feedback on how appropriateness with your family watching each of these films.
We do our
were.
best.
So, yes, we did.
do our
we
best.
did okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got you guys here. We want to play our lightning round.
Oh, okay.
So this month's lightning round is sponsored by Ned Ryerson Insurance. Whole life, auto, flood, home. You can't have enough insurance. Am I right or am I right? Stay safe with Ned Ryerson Insurance. You can check it out on the internet. So this is a special holiday version of the lightning round. So I've got some holiday questions for you guys. So, don't overthink it. Quick answers. Or you might have to think a little bit. First one, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you think, Gary?
I would say yes.
I think you're crazy, but okay.
What, you're saying no?
It's not a Christmas movie. It
Well,
takes place at Christmas.
It plays
but
at
it's not a
Christmas. Yeah, I was going to say.
These are not for discussion. Anyway.
Okay. All right.
Favorite Christmas song?
Baby, Please Come Home for Christmas.
Okay.
Was that I forget who sang it originally.
But then Bono, you're talking about the YouTube.
Well, yeah, U2 did a cover of it, but I like the original too. And I don't know, it's one of the Motown groups in the 60s. But yes, that's my favorite.
Chris, you have one?
Yeah, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it was on one of those Christmas, very special Christmas mixes.
You want to sing it for us?
Sinead O'Connor. Sinead O'Connor sang it. I think it's I Believe in Him or something, but it's really good.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's the very special Christmas mix that has the green cover with the gold design on it. So if you go on iTunes, you can probably find it. But that's mine.
So if you look Sinead O'Connor Christmas songs, there's probably not
Probably,
that many.
it's probably going to get down to one. So yeah, that'll be it.
All right. Is it okay to open presents on Christmas Eve?
One present.
Yeah, I'm with Chris on that. One present's
One
okay on
present.
Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Yeah.
And spoiler, it's usually the pajamas you're supposed to wear Christmas morning. But yes.
There you go.
It's a practical timing of giving out the gift. Yeah.
All right. When Gary and I are invited over to your homes this holiday season, will we see a real Christmas tree or an artificial Christmas tree?
It's artificial for me.
Sadly, this year we have 2 trees, and we used to do one artificial, one real. This year it's going to be 2 artificial. So.
I'm wondering if that happens with age. Gary, where are you on this one?
We're artificial. We have 2 artificial trees.
I'm artificial too, and I just wonder as we get older and we realize what a pain in the butt the real tree is.
Yes.
It's easy to
come to that
decorate
conclusion.
them and make them what you want them to look
Pick
like.
it out anymore because they're not around.
Yeah, the kids aren't there to nag you about like go get a tree.
Exactly. I used to get so stressed out going to pick out a live tree because like you think it looks good and then you get it back and it's like it's all lumpy or there's a giant blank spot.
And you can't move the branches like you can with an artificial tree.
I'm like, I don't have to worry about it. I know how it's going to look.
All right.
So, yeah.
All right. Just good to hear. If you could be a Christmas character, this is our last question. If you could be a Christmas character, which character would you be?
So I'm going to say Jack Skellington from the movie Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
But his imagination and the way he's trying to go about doing the best or what he thinks is the best. And he tries to make Christmas awesome, but doesn't quite work, so then he goes back to do Halloween. But it is a Halloween and Christmas movie, so Jack Skellington is mine.
Okay.
Boy.
He took no time. It was like
I know,
he was
it was
waiting
quick.
for that.
I'm
Like a
stumped
fastball
on
down the
that.
middle there.
I'm stumped on that one. I mean, look, I guess I'll go with Buddy the Elf from Elf, Will Ferrell. I just, his innocence and enthusiasm for everything's infectious. So if I could actually be like that on a regular basis and not think about anything else, I'd be totally happy.
I thought one of you would say Santa, but okay.
No, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure with the Santa role. I don't know if I want to do that.
How gratifying would it be to give gifts to everyone?
Very gratifying, but I think it'd be also gratifying just to help make the gifts and help Santa out. That's good too.
Well, things. He went through some tough times there, but it worked out for everybody off in the end.
He did. Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Well, thank you guys for playing our lightning round. Where can people be finding you and Foot Candles? Where should they be looking?
So our website is footcandle.org. That is where we put up we do a monthly film screening here in beautiful downtown Hickory on a monthly basis and open to the public as well as our members. And we have our film festival in September every year as well. That's also open to everybody to come visit. But footcandle.org is where to find us on the web. And of course, we have Facebook, whatever all the social things are nowadays. Those places.
As well as a podcast.
Oh, yeah. Footcandle Films is our podcast right here on the same audio network here.
Oh, very good. Well, always enjoy seeing you guys talking about movies.
Thanks.
And appreciate you guys doing this. So thank you guys very much.
Thanks.
We appreciate it as well.
And we always like to end up with some small businesses that we've come across. And going once, going twice. Alan, you got something you want to share?
I do. That's why I'm hopping back in the show here to join it. Yeah, I do actually have one. I kind of, before the show, was trying to think because I know there's a lot of companies and places that I've been buying things from or getting, especially this time of year, as you do some shopping. So I went back and looked, and there is a company that I wanted to call out. I don't know the size of the company, but I got to imagine it's relatively small. I can't imagine this being a gigantic corporation running this. But I am, people have different interests in things that are a little more niche that they're really into and they like finding and shopping for. For me and one of my three boys, it is albums. It is, actual LPs, albums, the big album covers and the turntable albums. We love those. We love listening to them. We like not really collecting them, but we have a few that we like to try to find. So although it's the most fun to go to a record store and try to find them in person, sometimes you just can't find them and you need to find a place to actually purchase them online. And yeah, you could go to Amazon and these places. I'm sure they can shop for all that. But there's a website, a company called Discogs. It is Discogs, Discogs. It's a website. You go there and it is only about albums. It is all about buying albums. You go in, you search for the album you're looking for, the artist, the title of the album. And what it does is it's basically indexing and showing you everybody who has that album and is selling it. So you've got different copies available and it's very specific saying, okay, here's a copy that is a 8 out of 10 on a quality scale. It maybe has a slight scratch on one side. It's very detailed telling you, and here's the cost for this version. There's another copy of it that this guy's selling that is in perfect mint condition, unsealed, and it costs this much. So you just have a lot of options and you can go and filter and say, all right, I want something that's like less than $20 and I don't mind if it's a 7 or so on the quality scale. And it filters it and finds you. And then basically when you go to purchase it, you are technically purchasing it from the person who's selling it. But Discogs is kind of the interface to do all that and to keep you in one place. It's really nice. I've bought probably 5 or 6 albums from there over the last year, and it's always been a great experience. I think the site may be a tad overwhelming because there's just a lot of options and a lot of things on there. But if you know what you're looking for and you get in there to search, I like a company that puts together a very easy way to find what you're looking for and gives you a more alternative way of shopping than just, yep, here's the album and it's $35 and this is it and do you want one or not? It's no, here are the different options you've got depending on how much you want to spend or if you want an original one or you want maybe a reproduction that came out recently. It gives you all those options. And I really enjoyed using it. So I want to call that out.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Good. My son buys them, I think, more to put the album covers on his wall as art.
Yeah, it is.
So
it's true.
So
yeah.
Would that be useful to him?
Oh, yeah. And again, what you would find is you would look for, you can actually search and say, they let you rate the ones you're looking for based on quality of the album cover versus the disc. So you could find one where the disc is all chewed up and scratched up and super cheap, but the cover is in pretty good condition, and that's the one you want to buy. So it's good. Very
No,
good.
okay, that's helpful. Gary, what do you got?
I've got one that's up in my wheelhouse with food, candy, but it comes from New Jersey, which is we had our son brought someone home for Thanksgiving, and they brought a gift, which was a pleasant surprise, and it was this candy operation. I'm not going to say how big it is. I think they've got a couple of stores. It's called Jaggelties. I have to give it to you and spell it to you.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Jagielky, homemade candies in Ventnor, New Jersey, which is very close to Ocean City, which is where my family went each summer. So it had a little bit of home reminding me of my past. I was trying to think of what the best word was. The candy was great.
Okay.
Okay.
Chocolate?
It was chocolate. I'm sorry, it's chocolate covered anything.
Chocolate covered anything.
And it was phenomenal. So I highly recommend. It's in Ventnor, New Jersey, and again, like I said, it's right next to Ocean City, which is where I spent my summers.
Huh.
And how do you say that again?
Jaggle Keys. I don't know.
Okay.
He didn't know either.
We'll put it in our show notes so
Yes,
people
that's
can
what I said, we'll put it in the
click
notes.
on it. All right.
That's a good call.
Well, very good. So I want to give a shout out. So I think I ran across this maybe last December after we had already taped our podcast, but I saw it and I sort of went back and made a note and still around. But there's an organization called DeafSantaClaus.com that started in Texas and by a fellow named Charles Graves. He started in 2019, and basically he goes around and he knows American Sign Language, ASL, because I think that is what people use that are actually deaf, as opposed to someone who might have hearing but learn how to sign. I guess it's very, very similar. But basically he goes around and as a Santa Claus and signs to people that are unable to hear, and basically has expanded to add other people to sort of scale his operation. He's actually got a foundation now where people can make donations and contributions, and they sell some merchandise and whatnot. So it's if you go to deafsantaclaus.com,
That's great.
you can learn more about what they do there, and it just seemed like a very appropriate and cool thing to be doing this
Yes.
time of year. So I sort of wanted to just recognize them and give them a shout out. So
That's a really great
check it
idea
out.
for a business. That's good. Yeah.
if you have a suggestion for the Entrepreneur Exchange Small Business of the Month, you can email them to us at exchange@themesh.tv. We appreciate any thoughts and comments. You can reach us there. Want to thank Chris Frye and Alan Jackson for joining us today, we
It's our
always
favorite
enjoy it.
Thank
podcast
you.
of the year.
Yes. And we always want to give a big thanks to the Mesh Podcast Network. You can go to themesh.tv and see the whole variety of podcasts that are available there, from comedy, from sports to health to whatever. A lot of fun stuff going on there. We wish everyone a great holiday season. Enjoy your holidays. Stay safe. And we look forward to talking with you again next month.
Take care. See you soon.